Morning, ladies and gentlemen of the crappie fishing world. So, I haven't had a lot of time to make videos. I've been life busy. And it's just the way it goes, in today's world. So, recently, I made the decision. I'm still multi species, but I'm primarily going for crappie right now. I made the decision to become mostly boat oriented. I have several friends that have floating devices. So, over the course of the next few months, that's pretty much what I'm going to concentrate on. So, not gotten on ponds a lot. I feel that while you can catch fish, and there are many people that do pretty damn good, I have anxiety issues related toward dealing with volumes of people. One-on-one's not too bad. Be in a restaurant. If I'm in a bar, yeah, I can handle it. But being around, more than a certain amount of individuals at a time presents sometimes issues to me. I've never gone to anybody professionally and said, hey, what's the matter with me? Because I just take myself out of situations that I'm not comfortable in or I know could be dangerous, and I get out of the situation. So just made that decision because once COVID hit, we got a lot more licensees for fishing. And honestly, the ponds are just getting so massively pressured. I just don't want to bother with that level of effort to catch a fish. It's that simple. There is one pond in particular that's in Scottsdale that I still go to on a fairly regular basis when I get the chance. And the only reason I go to that one is because I know the pond very well and I can usually do pretty good, and not a lot of people fish it. So I still go to that one. But I primarily get on boats now. And I've noticed that with Arizona waters, they tend to be more of the decent water clarity, mostly the greenish tint water. Know that we have had some algae bloom going on because of the constant and interesting back and forth of the weather pattern. However, now the temperature during the night has risen a little bit, and the temperature during the day is rising significantly. So the fishing has gotten pretty damn good, which means that more and more people are going to get on the lakes as well, which is just the way it is. But the thing with the lakes is, especially the salt chain, is that even if you had hundreds of boats in a day, the volume of water to the volume of anglers is much different than ponds in comparison. So, knowing that, I know my chances are better. However, even in the Arizona salt chain lakes, you're only getting around 3 to 5% of the water, even with live scope, that is truly productive. And that's true of any lake system. It's just 1 to 5, maybe 8% in some really good bodies of water. There's a lot of dead areas. There's a lot of dead areas in lakes. There are not so many dead areas in ponds because the volume of water is much lower. So that kind of raises the percentage despite the pressure of catching a fish. However, does not eliminate the fact that there's so many people fishing these ponds in the valley now. So it's one of the reasons I made that change. And there are people out there that would like to fish with me, which is appreciated. But most of them are fishing ponds or fishing in areas. Segue, I just got up. I just got this thing on my mind, and I'm just barely starting coffee. So bear with me, I'm going to yawn. So, it's one of those things where I just made a personal choice. I got a bigger pack again. I've got my smaller packs for pond carry. And if I want to shoreline fish on the lakes, I just have my massive cargo pockets, which I think they're like 10 to 12 inches deep. They're big cargo pockets. So the top ones on the thighs, not the top ones, but the top cargoes on the thighs are the ones that are around 12 inches deep. And then below that are some smaller 4-inch pockets for smaller accoutrements that are on basically where the side of the calves are. So I tend to keep things like scents, super glue for nets and whatnot, those smaller items in those small pockets on the bottom, because when I'm walking, I don't want to clink too much. It's uncomfortable. But I can tuck anything I could imagine putting on the shoreline in those two pockets. And I still have above those pockets, wallet, phone, keys, and I can comfortably walk in those pants. Unfortunately, their drawstring is wearing down because they're not a belt type pant, and I've already had to repair them. So I'm pretty sure I'm going to have to find a replacement for those. But they were on sale at Walmart, so I'm really not too upset that I'll have to get another pair of pants, but I've got to find for me, because I'm autistic and I'm very regimented in how I do things on some levels. I've got to find another pair of pants that has that same basic layout and size of cargo, because a lot of cargo pants really don't have that big a pocket, and the ones that do are usually the tactical ones that are ridiculously expensive, even on eBay or Amazon. So I've got to be cognizant of that. So I'm kind of looking around right now. I'm home today, not because I'm sick, even though I'm sniffling. I'm home today because I went to Starbucks yesterday for the first time in forever, got a shitty coffee, and I noticed that my brakes were squeaking when I pulled up. Now, I only went to the dealer like a month ago to get some stuff done, maintenance-wise, and they told me I had 7mm on my front pads left, and that my drums were absolutely phenomenal, which drums do last longer typically because it's usually 65% front. So I'm going in just to double check, even though I got a wash yesterday and the squeak kind of went down because the brakes got cleaned to a point. I still am going and getting checked because I don't like letting stuff on my car sit around until something happens. Unfortunately, with this vehicle, I've had to deal with several issues, and I'm not even at 60,000 miles yet. Some of the newer Nissans are just like that. You just get a car every now and then where you've got to do shit. Sucks, but it is what it is. But in today's economy and today's inflation rate, I don't like dealing with this shit. So it is what it is. Yeah. Oh, side note though, before I get into my main topic, because I'm always going off everywhere. Nissan is already with Mitsubishi. I don't know if anybody knows that, but about 20 years ago, Nissan got bought by Renault, which is a shit-ass French company and makes shitty stuff. So their quality went down a fair amount. But now, Nissan and Honda are joining forces, and they're going to be sharing technology. So the hope is that Nissan, by way of that, will increase their reliability exponentially. And that would be great. It would be even better if they kicked Renault out of the equation, because Renault fucking sucks. So, assuming I'm alive long enough that the economy evens out and gets better, which I don't know is going to happen, I might possibly get a Honda Nissan newer designed vehicle. I don't know. I don't like cars with new technology. I really don't. If I could go back to a mid 80s to mid 90s SR5 Toyota pickup single cab, for around 25 to 5 grand, and the parts availability alone and the fuel economy from that 4-cylinder, shit, I'd do it in a heartbeat. I hate computers. I hate all this advanced bullshit, man. I don't need that stuff on my car. I'm a very basic redneck. Put the shit in drive or shift into first gear. make sure my basic shit fucking works. Do I have AC? I live in Arizona. Great. Are my brakes good? Great. Does it go vroom? Great. I'm good. All this other shit, fuck that, man. I'm so over it. And now they're getting more and more AI into shit. It's just getting ridiculous. I hate technology. Even though I'm on a phone doing a video, I'm telling you, I got the phone that I have and I've had for years, the types, because I do all my stuff primarily on my phone. I don't have a mainframe at home. I have to use some certain levels of technology. And unfortunately, to do YouTube, you kind of have to have technology. And that's the extent of what I want to use for technology. It really is. I despise technology with a passion. Anyway, since I've already gone for 11 minutes off everything, let's get to the main topic, shall we? Yeah. By the way, side note, I know it's generally recognized as human behavior that averting eyes is a sign that you're either dishonest or have something to hide. With me, with the way that I'm autistic, what you're hearing come out of my mouth when I speak, it takes my brain much longer than an average human to formulate. I have to think about what I'm going to say beyond what the normal individual does because my brain processes things on a base level much differently. And it's taken me, well, I'm 53, it's taken me over 45 years to really tune myself. It really has taken me most of my life. It's not an easy thing to deal with. So if you see me averting my eyes and all that, it's because my brain is doing that formulation. It's not because I don't want to look your way and give the camera the attention. It's just the way that it is with my brain. Even when I'm talking about it, it's still happening, okay? So don't think I'm trying to spin you a yarn. It's part of what my body does to me, my brain. Okay, so here we go. With crappie fishing, crappie see 1,000 times better than other species of fish in general. They have great big fucking eyes. They see massive amounts of colors. And I've come to the realization that no matter what the dirty factor of the, what the dirty factor of the water is, that they see much better. How else could we explain, without the benefit of a lot of vibration and noise in the water, i.e. regular crappie jigs, even if they're minnow and shad coloration patterns in dirty water, they still find them. Well, number one, they're used to that type of food, so they know what they're seeing is what they eat, okay? And they just see much better. And to me, natural bait patterns, how do I explain this? Profile-wise, coloration-wise, patterns, that type of thing, I think are much more important than color for a crappie. Now, that being said, they do get in moods, but I have found that when I toss an artificial, the more natural patterns and coloration patterns work better for me. Now, that's my experience. That does not mean that that is the case for everybody. That does not mean that that's the case every time you go fishing. That crappie are like, well, I'm going to say this. They're kind of like the average woman, fairly fickle and quite picky. So, the whole what do you want to have for dinner routine? Yeah, they're kind of like the same. So if you find the pattern and the coloration that they like at that moment, throw it. I used to only throw natural colors. Now I have a cadre of a lot of different colors and a lot of different profiles. I used to only throw the little teardrop stingers. Now I have quite a few. But the one that has been shining for me a lot the last few weeks, and I got a lot of local bait makers, crappie baits, but it's the 6th Sense clobber minnow. That thing just absolutely slaughters all the fish in the water. I mean, you could be going for crappie and shit, I've even hooked into carp. It looks, as natural as possible to them. Now, when I first saw this thing, I saw that body shape with the keel. It's like, okay, so no matter what head shape, what size, that fin is going to keep it from rolling over so much. And it does, because I've even had a 1/64th head on one just to test it out. And I drew it through the water, and it did not flip over. So I was like, okay, that's actually pretty good. It's kind of like a steering keg, basically. But it also looks in that minnow to shad type profile range. So they key in on that. But then the other thing, and the thing that I found that they were really ugly for, was that stupid ass tail. But apparently they have some like Santeria or voodoo magic mixed with science guy sitting Sixth Sense that just knows fish, because that tail, when you get it in the water, that thing looks so natural. And it's just, I mean, even just sitting there, the thing is continually moving all the time, and it gets slaughtered. Now, I know it's not the first to do that. Bait. Okay, so the ball tail is a golden standard in crappie fishing for that reason. And before Clobber came along from Sixth Sense and perfected the situation, yeah, I said it, I'm not the biggest fan of Sixth Sense in general, but that Clobber minnow will have my fishing heart forever after starting to use it, okay? It's just ridiculous how well it works. The Strike King shad pole was the first one that I believe really, truly perfected that profile and that tail style. There are thousands of different brands and such out there that make ball tails or, you know, that type of motion. But the Clobber minnow gets my number one vote, and the Strike King shad pole gets my secondary vote. Now, I also like, you know, this is the only problem being in your 50s, is that you forget shit. I also like Mr. Crappie products. I think they're pretty good. I have several of them. I have them in storage right now because I'm using primarily my local and the Clobber minnows. I can't remember that fucking name. It'll come to me like half an hour after I stop this fucking video. But like the thing that was working for my friend Matt and myself on Bartlett the last couple times that we've gone is green lighting at night, but using things like the Clobber minnow. You don't always have to have shad to catch fish off a green light, because essentially happens with a green light. And for some reason, the green spectrum of light pulls the plankton, the phytoplankton, better than the white lights. I used to use white lights with my dad a long time ago. They worked pretty good. They're usually brighter than green lights, but now green lights have come way the hell farther in technology. The LEDs ones are bright as shit. What I like about the green lights is that you start seeing, especially when it's in the middle of summer and it's dead of night, just millions of phytoplankton. All of a sudden, it's just this cloud of this phytoplankton, and that phytoplankton attracts the baitfish because that's their primary source of protein besides aquatic vegetation. So it's this 3-stage process. First, you'll have that phytoplankton after about 20 minutes to an hour, depending on where you are, what the weather is like. You'll have that happen. Then you'll have the baitfish start to come up. Then all of a sudden, the predatory fish are underneath the baitfish, and they're starting to take swoops. And you'll start seeing them swishing around down there. High time. We march fish from 5 to 15 foot with bait balls all the hell over the place. But then the bait that came up to the surface would spread out, and that started that circle pattern that they do, okay? So for a while, for about an hour and a half or so, they were just kind of scattering around. Then they started doing that circle pattern toward the end, toward the morning, when the sun started to peak up a little bit and you could just see daylight coming. They really started doing that whole spin thing. Now, the one thing we could not do, because the water was so clear the last time, is get the 3-inch and bigger thread fin with the cast net. We got plenty of the 2-inch all night long, once my friend Matt figured out how his cast net would get them best. And they just they saw the net so easily and quickly that they were scattering before it parachuted around, basically. So we had to figure out a way to get the net as close to the boat as possible to get a fair amount at a time. And we did. We'd get like 15 to 20 at a time. They were not to the point of thickness to where you could get 100 in a cast like they are sometimes. I know on Saguaro Lake, even though it's primarily yellow bass for panfish, you can get hundreds in a single cast net cast when a green light. You could have your live well, have them in there forever the whole night with one cast. I've seen it happen. It is retarded how many threadfin are in that pond, and gizzards. I know Pleasant's the same way as Saguaro to a point. You can get pretty decent amount of bayfish. Pretty much any body of water that has bayfish, when you do the green light, your cast net rate's going to be pretty decent. Unfortunately, even though there's a lot of bayfish at Bartlett, they're very skittish, and if the water clarity is anything more than 2 foot, a lot of times they see the net, or you need to have a heavier net to drop quicker, essentially. So that's what we were doing. What I was doing in particular that got me my biggest crappie the last time. Excuse me. Got me the biggest crappie the last time was a chartreuse and pink badass baits double tail. It's basically a slightly longer version of a crappie magnet. Essentially, it's that same type of profile with the twin legs. With a 1/64th, I threw out past the light into the dark, because a lot of times the predatory fish will also be in the perimeter, and if a bayfish comes close enough, they'll come out, zap it, boom, done, eaten. I've got more protein. They operate like that. They're very opportunistic in how they can get a hold of bayfish. So it was sinking down. It got to about 6 foot, and I was counting it down based on the weight of the head, and then all of a sudden there was this weight there. It was not a hard hit like that regular thump. It was just weight, and then my rod tip just started bending. Now, what I'm using is a 7'6" 2-piece hand built from Ron Weber of Southwest Custom Rods. He lives near Crystal Gardens, so when I get stuff done by him, it's kind of a drive. I have not been able to get back over to him because gas prices being what they are and life being what it is. Because I have a rod that he repaired that I need to pick up at some point. And I intend to do that. Just gas and money has just been interesting. So I get back to this fish. Here I go off on the thing again. It was massive. It was just over 3 pounds. It was a very large crappie. Now, Bartlett has a reputation for having some pretty good-sized crappie. Roosevelt and Patagonia, which is a smaller lake, but still kind of essentially a big-ass pond, have some of the biggest crappie in the state that I've ever seen. Does Alamo have some bigs? Yeah. Does Alamo cough up a lot of crappie? Oh, yeah. Do Takalai and those other reservation ones? Yeah, but you got to get, I don't mess with the reservation lakes, because even if you get the permit pass to go, a lot of times the native people, they still get pissy that you're there. And I can understand why, and I'm not angry for it. I would just rather not put myself in the situation to have to bother with arguing with anybody at this point in my life. So Roosevelt is definitely a possibility fairly soon for green lighting. I have a really big aversion to the heat, even with UV gear on. So nighttime fishing is one of those things that when the heat of the summer comes on, I very rarely go out in the bright of day anymore. I'll wait till like 8 o'clock when the sun starts going down, when it's in the middle of summer and it's like 9 before the sun really sets. Yeah, that's when I go out. I take my headlamp with me. I leave my big ass straw hat at home. I go out at night. I do real good. Unless I'm on a boat and it's one of those things where we have a bimini top or something like that, I'm probably not going to fish during the day anymore. In the dead of summer anyway. But anyway, that thing, because I have 2 pound line and micro guides on this rod, and this rod has an 18-inch cork handle that he handmade, has slip grip rings on it, has a flare out at both sides, end and front, so I can put the slide ring wherever I want, and it's not going to slide off of the handle. It's extremely light, it's extremely limber, and it senses everything. I feel it instantly. It could be a freaking fish farting in the water and I would feel it. It's ridiculous how sensitive that rod is. I paid $150 for Ron to make it back in the day. It's been like 4 years, maybe a little bit longer. It has not failed me. I have had one tip replaced by him because of my own stupidity, tossing into a culvert and cracking in the inner ring. The tip that he replaced it with is smaller than the rest. The last one I was on was proportional to the last guide. They are all micros except for Airwave guide for the first one. The Airwave guide, if you ever get a custom rod made or buy a higher end rod, see if it has an Airwave. It takes so much slap out of the line. I thought it was the stupidest thing I'd ever seen in my life when I saw it, but it works. And I don't know what the juju on that one is either, but it takes all slap out of the line and gets you a lot further cast with a lot more ease. So this fish fought like it was a massive bass. I essentially thought that I had a very large bass on my line because it fought very similarly. I got it up. I said, oh my God, I need the net for this shit. I pulled it out of the water. I was like, holy shit. Because that was, besides my one Scottsdale crappie that was over 3 pounds. Yes, they do exist in Scottsdale. Was the biggest crappie I've caught in 10 years besides that one. So it's fun. And there's things that are going on in my friends' lives which are changing their lives drastically. But whenever I get the chance to greenlight, I'm definitely going to take it as much as I can. If it's during the day, all I ask is that I can cool off occasionally, because Jesus Christ, when it gets to 110 and above outside, it's a pain in the ass for an old fat fucker like myself. But I go as natural as I can until color-wise, until I know that it's not going to work. Then I pull out the what I call finger in your butt colors. Surprise! Because they go, hey, wait a minute, this is not natural. Like I went to ASU Research Park. And, it costs up some decent fish. It's not a bad pond system. The 3 of them are not bad. The middle one is definitely the best one. It's also the one that gets hit the most. I was throwing the Shadpole Strike King in a red chartreuse. It's kind of an ugly color combination because they're deep colors on the Strike Kings. On a 1/32 ball head flattened with eyes, sickle hook, and just shoreline in it, and I popped a few bass. They mutilate that bait. Regardless of color, there's just something about it that just makes them beat the shit out of it. So besides my friends' baits that are local or that I deal with that are small companies, I basically will be using the shadpoles and the clobber minnows primarily. Anytime I catch shad, the artificials come the fuck off because it's just game on at that point. We're getting us some crappie. That's all there is to it, and it works. So I would just say, if I was going to give advice to anybody going for crappie and panfish, always use natural as much as you can. But if they're not biting on natural, finger in the butt colors. Eventually, you're going to find something that's going to work.